So, over a month after launch, and I'm getting the hang of how the game plays, I decided I want to check out Teambuilder and start working on moving over the ones I built in 25, and finally finish the other teams I had in mind for that custom Teambuilder conference I wanted to implement in the Dynasty mode. I was as optimistic as I think I could have been going into the website for the first time in almost a year, hearing about the changes that they made to the mode this time around, and it being in a more stable place. But why did I let myself get fooled by the hype? Let me start off by saying this. The changes that they made to the site are welcome and much needed, so thank you for that. I don't know what I would have done if I had to go another year with manually editing rosters over and over again in the Dynasty mode menu. Probably crashing out, and it would have been warranted. But a lot of what they gave us was half-baked, and truly now, looking at it, most of this stuff could have been implemented mid last year and didn't need to be held back for this year's launch. This website depends on the game to be able to visualize what we created, but quite frankly, it is also independent in the sense that changes could be made here to how it functions and it wouldn't bother the game that much. Okay, I feel like I'm rambling, so let me lay it out to you like this. Teambuilder, although improved, still has a lot wrong with it. And here are my issues with the thing. And also, a way that it can be improved so we don't have to deal with this mess anymore. Let's go in depth with my biggest gripe, the face scans. And this was easily the most painful part of the video to put together because of the numbers that I had to go through. But that's how important this is to me. There is an inaccurate representation of ethnicities on Teambuilder. Division I college football is comprised of about 54% black athletes, 40% white, 3% Latinx, and 3% Asian and Pacific Islander. Keep these statistics in mind when I go over these next few things. Like, why are there so many black face scans with white people hair? I mean, it makes zero sense. I appreciate the fact that we have this abundance of face options, but some of these AI generated faces should not have passed through QA testing. If they even did that for Teambuilder, which at this point I'm starting to doubt. I counted them, and there are 212 faces on the third from darkest skin selection with white hair. 591 guys in the last two darker skin complexions have blonde hair and or beards. That's ridiculous. Find me 5 guys that look like that playing college football right now. Guess what? You can't, because they don't exist. If you're keeping track, that's over 800 generated faces that I would consider unusable. Also, why are there no Polynesian guys or Polynesian hairstyles for that matter? Samoan Americans are 40 to 50 times more likely to make it to the NFL over non-Samoan Americans. Let that sink in. So please explain to me why we don't see that ethnicity at all in the generic face pool. It would greatly help with that representation if we finally got the Samoan hair sticking out of the helmet, something that is in Madden currently and has been for quite a while now. Those team members are already sharing resources. This could easily be one of them. Another thing, why are the black hairstyles locked to the 2 dark skin tones? There is not a single, not one, light-skinned black guy with dreads in the generic player pool. Not one. Despite the game roster having multiple real players that were, well, let's just say they used their portraits in order to create a cyber face for people that look like that in the game. And on that same note, there are more Indian looking guys than light skinned guys. Yet there isn't a single notable Indian football player at the college or the pro level right now. And look, I understand the argument for wanting representation in the game for all ethnicities. That's cool, but you lose that argument when you completely miss on representing entire groups of people. To sum that all up, the entire model for face generation is cooked. It isn't trained properly to accurately represent the people we have playing this sport right now. This is just the thing that, if anything else in the game, needs to be scrapped and reworked from the ground up. Or, at the bare minimum, heavily combed through to remove the bad ones and actually some effort put in to get some good ones. Okay. Why do we only have 7 default rosters to choose from when creating our team? Do you guys realize the amount of editing that I have to do in order to make sure that I don't have the same rosters as other teams on Teambuilder? Let's just say renaming and changing faces and numbers and some ratings for 85 players on 14 teams is no task that I would wish on another individual. Or better yet, let me put it like this. I started on this project maybe about a week or 2 after the game launched. I'm still working on it to this day, and I only have 6 teams completed. But this could all be changed with 2 simple fixes. And yes, they should be simple, as these are just preset data sheets that they get the roster details from, since they are just used on all of the presets. Fix number 1, simply add more presets. We should have more preset roster types based on team playstyle. Heck, I propose that we have at least 3 to 4 different defaults for each preset. That would give enough room for differentiation between multiple Teambuilder teams that one user could create with the same preset. But I think option 2 is the preferred way, and I know that's the way I would probably do it. But that would be to implement a roster randomizer on the website. Generate new players with new numbers and new attributes, and someone could use that as is or as a base for deeper customization. But this whole 7 default roster thing is almost going to be a non-negotiable for me when it comes to college football 27. And quite frankly, I believe could be implemented mid-cycle, as it shouldn't be game specific. Another thing is the lack of customization in the program section. Why is it that this website looks like it is perfectly set up to be able to drag the sliders for program grades to wherever you see fit for your school? But nope, we are stuck with picking a program type with set grades for each of these school types. We should be able to move that slider bar to whatever grade we want, and also be able to set the school prestige to whatever we want too. These are all aspects that should be up to the user for their created teams. If I want to make a school with A+ campus lifestyle, but the worst facilities and academics you have ever seen at a college, then I should be able to do that without a restriction. And look, I understand that the workaround that they gave us for being able to make other Teambuilder teams as rivals, but I shouldn't have to pre-select what teams I'm going to be replacing in the game while designing my team builders. By the time I finally upload the game, I may have already changed my mind on who is replacing who, and would have to go back to the website again to change it. The flaw in this also is that if someone else downloads just one of my teams, it's gonna have a preset rivalry that may not make sense to them because they may not be replacing the same teams. Do you see what I'm saying? It's all set up more complicated than it needs to be. We should be able to select another Teambuilder team as the rival from the website, and all of that information should be viewable to the user who downloads the team, so they know if they want those rivalries to work, they will need to download the other teams that go with it. But truth be told, a lot of this would also be rectified if they let us just set up new rivalries from within the Dynasty mode itself anyway. But that's another video for another time. So what is the reason that I cannot create my coaches on the website? These are supposed to be my fictional teams. I have backstories for these schools already. I want to be able to see that built out with the coaches I already had in mind for these schools. I understand this may be another, we don't want someone to create an opted out coach in the game. Well, there are already 2 ways to fix that, and one of which EA has already implemented. That being, you cannot create existing schools in Teambuilder because their logos are already copyright. That's why so many of the FCS schools got taken down last year. And secondly, a checksum filter for opted out coaches' names would be the safest way to keep it from happening, so no one can create Coach Prime or Coach Belichick. Okay, I'm not asking for a stadium creator or anything like that, although that would be dope as heck if we did get one. But can we please get more generic stadiums to choose from? Like seriously, we need at minimum the same amount of generic stadiums as we have teams that we can import into a dynasty at one time. I believe that number is 14, but I could be wrong on that as I don't feel like going and checking. But still, you get what I'm saying here. I actually like the generic designs that they gave us. Just can we get more of that? And it would be nice if they would finally put in some generic team walkouts, entrances, I don't know what you would call it, but something other than when you start the game, it immediately just goes to the kickoff screen. And generally speaking, I like the tool set that we were given to create the uniforms. I really feel like we got the freedom to really make them look the way we want them to look. That's honestly the best part about this feature right now. But it could use some improvements, namely texture improvements. The chrome on the helmets is nice, but it's way too shiny on everything else in my opinion. I think a metallic option would go really far. It's something in between chrome and matte, you know. And on that same note, the glossy numbers look rubbery. So the only texture that looks natural are like the matte ones. We need one that more represents like a fabric material in there. Now, these are some quality of life changes that we need in the very near future for this mode. I didn't want to make a whole section dedicated to these individually, as this video is already going to be longer than I like, and also aren't things I want to spend a whole lot of time on explaining, as a few words about them will pretty much get my point across. So let's get after it. The ability to edit player equipment on the website. I want specific guys to wear specific equipment, and I sometimes just play with my team builder teams and play now just to get a quick game mode in between fatherhood and work and other responsibilities. And we can only currently edit them in Dynasty mode. We should have the ability to edit these things on the website. And if that's out of the realm of possibility, then at least let me edit them on the main roster screen, then re-upload them to Teambuilder as the final version. Because one big equipment pet peeve of mine is the tuck jerseys in this game. They don't look right. They're way too like the crop top jerseys, they're way too tucked up to where you can't even see the numbers. And in college football, like, for one, they don't allow the crop top anymore anyway. But even when they did, you could still see the player's number on the front and the back. And as of right now, you can't see that. And I really hate that look. The ability to copy a template from the home uniform to the away, so that we don't have to refer to the values that we set for logos and stuff when setting up the home for setting up the away uniform. It just takes way too much effort and should be easier. We should be able to just copy whatever that layout is or that template is, move it over to the away, change the colors around, boom, we can get it done a lot faster and more efficiently too. Some generic presentation assets for us to use on our team builder teams. I'm talking fight songs, runouts, and mascots. That would only involve a few more motion capture sessions while they're already doing the main ones for the existing teams. They have a band that they use to record the menu music. Have them compose some generic ones also. And I think we would all appreciate some generic animals and people themed mascots that we can at minimum edit the colors on them and slap on a copy of our team's jersey. The ability to use Teambuilder for rebrands of existing schools. So like imagine this, coming up with some dope concept uniforms for schools like Alabama, LSU, those schools who haven't really changed their look much over the last few decades, and downloading them for use as alternate uniforms. There were some really dope concepts that were created by guys on the College Football Revamp Discord, and I think something like that would add a whole new level of flair to the game. The ability to add additional pieces to a uniform without having to create an entire new uniform set. I would like to be able to add another couple of helmets and jerseys, but I don't want to create more pants options, or maybe just have us create the individual parts from the start and later be able to designate uniform combos. And some of the last things I wanted to touch on was some of the other bugs that need to be ironed out on the website. I know this video isn't about that, but I thought I might as well be a good idea to bring them up here while I'm already on the subject. For starters, the number 0 is not selectable in the roster editing section. If you want a guy to have number 0, you have to edit the info on a guy that's already wearing it. Next is the college football number rule doesn't apply to when you're editing rosters on the website. Currently, you can have as many guys as you want on the same side of the ball have the exact same number. The college football rule states that only one player on that side of the ball can have that number. So something needs to be put into place to keep us from being able to select that same number multiple times if it's already in use on another player. Obviously on the same side of the ball. We don't want the issue where we had in 14 where if that one number, or in the old NCAA games where if a number was in use, it would not allow you to select it on another person. You basically had to mod the game in order to get that to work. But it's 2025. This thing should be smart enough to recognize, hey, this position is offense, and you already have a guy wearing number 3. You can't have another number 3 on offense. You know, something like that. We cannot edit where the players are from. This isn't super important to me, but I would definitely like to see that get put in, especially since I feel as though that was mentioned when they were doing when the Campus Huddle blog post came out, and a lot of the creators went down to go check out the game. I feel as though somebody had mentioned that was a thing, but it's definitely not a thing on the website. And finally, you cannot currently use special characters when entering names on the website. Thus, it restricts the ability to add ethnic names like Samoan and Nigerian ones. Alright, well then guys, that's it. Long video, I know, but this feature is extremely important to me and is a core element of how I play the game. And it really bothers me when I feel like there is so much done right, but also a bunch of half measures that weren't worked out fully before launching. With my basic knowledge of coding, I know that some of these things I mentioned here could be implemented mid-cycle if they really wanted to, but that's not something I think the suits at the top will let them address during the year, because Teambuilder, quite frankly, isn't a revenue generator for them. So we'll have to wait and see, and if and when some of this stuff ever gets addressed. But I am hopeful, as this team has shown that they will listen to and take community feedback on what we want to see. But I'm curious to how your guys' thoughts on Teambuilder and what you would like to see changed about it. So if you could leave those down in the comments for me, and while you're down there, please go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't have to miss out. I want to thank you guys for watching. Stay blessed. I'm out.